but I'll do it from home. If I don't have access, I'll send it from a personal email. Can we have order now so we get started? Can everybody take a seat, please, so we can get this underway? Yeah, there's a long night for the new City Council tonight. All right, I'd like to call to order the special City Council meeting on May 12, 2025 at 5:30 p.m. Madam Secretary, do we have a quorum?
Yes, Mayor, we do.
Next, please.
Item 2 is public comment. I've received one request to address the council from Lauren Megyesi, address 111 Mustang Drive.
All right, Lauren, you know the drill. There you are.
As we start off this new season with the new council coming in here, I just want to acknowledge the council members that are leaving this dais this time here. So Mayor Billings, you have been a stronghold into this community, and we thank you for what you have done. You have been putting the city of Fate in front and center for a very long time, and we thank you for that. We thank you for all your effort. You've gone down to Austin and fought down there for that. You fought for the city. You've set some good policy in here. For Mr. Robbins, thank you for all the times that you have served on this council. I know you've put lots of hours in, and you have done a great job on this council. Councilman Megyesi, brother, thank you for what you have done. This is your third stint on the council, 3 different seats, but all 3 of you guys are exemplary examples of how a council should be run. For the new council members and the new mayor coming in, it's a lot different sitting up there than where you are sitting back out here. I know we have a couple new council members that were put on here fairly recently, had these ideas of what can be done, can't be done. You get on that side, it's a little bit different. There's a little bit of understanding and learning that you got to do. Make sure that you listen to your city attorney, city manager, rest of the city council members, because they'll help you guys get situated it takes about a year to get on that council to understand what you're really part of. So for the new council members, new mayor, congratulations on what you accomplished. When you get on the council, remember, that it is important to do what's right for the city. Don't have agendas for yourself. Do what's right for the city, because that way the city and all communities will thrive. Thank you again for what you guys have done. The new ones, congratulations. And that's all I've got.
All right, thank you, Lauren, appreciate it. All right, just for me to know, we're going to have 3A, we'll canvass an election, we'll minute the oath of office, then we'll adjourn. You'll have about 10 minutes to take pictures as needed, and then the new mayor gets to start this meeting at 6 o'clock right on the button. Make sure we start on time there, Andrew. All right, next, please.
Okay. Next is agenda item 3A, canvass the election returns of the May 3rd, 2025 joint and special election held on May 3rd, 2025, and ultimately take action on ordinance number O-2025-016, canvassing the returns and declaring the results.
Okay, I make a motion, we approve resolution 2025-016. Do I have a second, please?
I'll second.
Vicky, you can pick a second.
Okay, Alan.
Alan, all right, you have a motion and a second. Please vote. No abstaining, please. Okay, motion passes 7-0. Congratulations to the new city council. Next, please.
Okay. Next will be agenda item 3B, administer the statement of elected official and official oath of office to the candidates declared elected. And we will start with the mayor.
Okay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Okay. We will start with your statement of officer, also known as the anti-bribery statement. So please stand and repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Andrew Greenberg,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I have not directly
that I have not directly or indirectly
paid or promised to pay,
paid or promised to pay,
contributed, promised to contribute
contributed or promised to contribute
any money or thing of value,
any money or thing of value,
or promised any public office or employment
or promised any public office or employment
for the giving
for the giving or withholding
of a vote
of a vote
at the election
at the election
at which I was elected,
at which I was elected,
or as a reward
or as a reward
to secure my appointment
to secure my appointment
or confirmation,
whichever the case may be.
so help me God.
So help me God.
One step. All right.
Thank you.
If you will please sign right here for me. For the official oath of office, I state your name,
I, Andrew Greenberg,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully execute the duties
that I will faithfully execute the duties
of the office of mayor
of the office of mayor
of the city of Fate,
of the city of Fate, Texas,
and will to the best of my ability
and will to the best of my ability
preserve, protect
and defend
the Constitution and laws
the Constitution and laws
of the United States
of the United States
and of this state.
and of this state.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay.
After this meeting adjourns, there'll be time for you.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Do I go? Thank you.
Thank you. Next, please. Are you?
Next will be Councilmember Place 4, Mr. Rick Maneval.
Hi, very good. Yes, absolutely.
I've been practicing. Okay, this is your official certificate of election.
Great.
This is yours to keep.
Okay, thank you.
You're very welcome. Okay, we will start with your statement of officer, also known as the anti-bribery statement.
Great.
I state your name,
I, Rick Maneval,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I have not directly
that I have not directly
or indirectly
paid or promised to pay,
contributed or promised to contribute
contributed or promised to contribute
any money or thing of value,
any money or thing of value,
or promised any public office
or promise any public office
or employment
for the
giving or withholding
of a vote
at the election
at the election
at which I was elected,
at which I was elected,
or as a reward
to secure my appointment
or confirmation, whichever the case may be, so help me God.
So help me God.
Step 1 is done.
Thank you.
You are very welcome.
Dave.
Okay. And now for the official oath of office. I state your name,
I, Rick Maneval,
do solemnly swear
that
I will faithfully execute the duties
the duties
of the office of Councilmember Place 4
of the City of Fate, Texas,
and will to the best of my ability
preserve, protect, and defend
the
Constitution and laws
of the United States
of the United States
and of this state.
and of the state.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, and I'll do the rest.
Okay.
And I will send you a list.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you.
This is for you.
Thank you. Beautiful.
Thank you. Okay, and now we will move to Councilmember Place 6, Miss Martha Huffman.
Great. Thank you.
Okay, statement of officer, anti-bribery statement. Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name,
I, Martha Huffman,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I have not directly
that I have not directly
or indirectly
or indirectly
paid or promised to pay,
paid or promised to pay,
contributed or promised to contribute
contributed or promised to contribute
any money or thing of value,
any money or thing of value,
or promised any public office
or promised any public office
or employment
or employment
for the giving
for the giving
or withholding
or withholding
of a vote
of a vote
at the election
at the election
at which I was elected,
at which I was elected,
or as a reward
or as a reward
to secure my appointment
to secure my appointment
or confirmation,
or confirmation,
whichever the case may be,
whichever the case may be.
so help me God.
So help me God.
Step one.
Thank you. Oh, gosh.
Okay. Official oath of office. I state your name,
I, Martha Huffman,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully execute the duties
that I will faithfully execute the duties
of the office
of the office of
Councilmember Place 6
Council Member Place 6
of the City of Fayette, Texas,
of the City of Fayette, Texas,
and will to the best of my ability
and will, to the best of my ability,
preserve, protect, and defend
preserve, protect, and defend
the Constitution
the Constitution
and laws
and laws
of the United States
of the United States
and of this state,
and of this state.
so help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Next, please.
Next is agenda item 4, adjournment.
Somebody,
I make a motion, we adjourn. I'll second.
please vote. Stand. Did you vote? Was it 7-0?
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. Thank you.
Okay, good evening. We will call the Fate City Council special session, or I guess this is a special session, to order at 6:03 p.m. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here. What is our first item on the agenda, Miss Vicky?
Item number 2 is going to be invocation given by Stephen Downs, Assistant City Manager, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance to the American and Texas flags.
Our Father in heaven, we're grateful this night to be able to gather together as a community to celebrate this wonderful country and the democracy that we live in that allows us to have these opportunities to elect those that will represent us in this community. And as we get to swear in, as we got to witness the swearing in of 3 new elected officials here in the city of Fate, we're so grateful for the opportunity that we had to participate in that process and to have elected these 3 good people to represent us and our interests in this community. We pray a blessing upon them and the others that have been elected to serve and are currently serving in that capacity, that they'll continue to be guided in the decisions that they make and have the hearts and the minds of the residents of Fate in their minds as they cast their votes and make their decisions. We're grateful for those that are outgoing and on this council that have served this community so well and have put in time, energy, and sacrifice away from family and loved ones to serve, again, this wonderful community that we get to call home. Please bless our families, watch over this community, bless our first responders, bless our public works employees and all those employees that serve this community, that they'll be watched over and protected as they're out handling emergencies and different needs that this community has. Again, we're grateful for all that we've been given. Please watch over and protect us, we pray, in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Our pledge to the American flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible. And God bless Texas. All right, what's next on the agenda?
Next is going to be agenda item 3A, which is presentation of a proclamation to David Billings in honor of service to the city of Fate.
I have the pleasure of reading this proclamation. Whereas we are here today to express our appreciation to David Billings and honor him for being a dedicated servant to the residents of the city of Fate. And whereas David has selflessly served in numerous leadership roles, including the County of Rockwall Emergency Service Corporation, Rockwall County Road Consortium, Fate Development Corporation Board, Fate Public Facility Corporation, Fate Planning and Zoning Commission, Fate City Council, and as mayor of the city of Fate, always demonstrating integrity, dedication, and a deep love for the community. And whereas, as a planning and zoning commissioner, city council member, and mayor, David led a city that prioritized fiscal responsibility, resulting in one of the lowest city tax rates in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, while simultaneously achieving significant increases in sales tax revenues. And whereas during his time in office, David actively engaged in legislative efforts at the state capitol in Austin, advocating for the principles of local control and responsible governance, ensuring the voices of municipalities were heard in state policymaking. And whereas in recognition of his outstanding service, leadership, and advocacy, it is fitting and proper that we acknowledge David's many contributions to this city. Now, therefore, I, Andrew Greenberg, Mayor of the City of Fate, on behalf of the City Council, do hereby proclaim the 15th day of May 2025 as David Billings Day in the City of Fate, and encourage all citizens to join in expressing gratitude to David for his dedicated service and to extend our best wishes to him for continued success and fulfillment in all of his future endeavors. Thank you, David. All right, Ms. Vicky, what do we have next?
Next will be Agenda Item 3B, Presentation of Proclamation to Alan Robbins in honor of service to the City of Fate.
Where is Alan? Okay, I just want to make sure I can see you so I can make eye contact with you. Whereas we are here today to express our appreciation to Alan Robbins and honor him for being a dedicated servant to the residents of the City of Fate, and whereas Alan has served the community with distinction in multiple leadership roles, including council member, mayor pro tem, and deputy mayor pro tem, and has demonstrated a steadfast commitment to civic engagement and community betterment through prior service on the Rockwall County Open Space Committee, Fate Planning and Zoning Commission, Fate Municipal Development District, Fate Development Corporation, and the Fate Public Facility Corporation. And whereas Alan holds the distinct honor of being the first council member to complete the maximum allowable service under the city charter term limits, marking a historic milestone in the city's governance and exemplifying a full and dedicated tenure in public office. And whereas Alan has exemplified thoughtful leadership, unwavering dedication, and a deep commitment to public service, leaving a meaningful and lasting impact on the community and setting a high standard for future civic leaders to follow. And whereas in recognition of his outstanding service and leadership, it is fitting and proper that we acknowledge Alan's many contributions to the city. Now, therefore, I, Andrew Greenberg, Mayor of the City of Fate, on behalf of the City Council, do hereby proclaim the 17th day of May 2025 as Alan Robbins Day in the City of Fate, and encourage all citizens to join in expressing gratitude to Alan for his dedicated service and to extend our best wishes to him for continued success and fulfillment in all of his future endeavors. Well done, Alan Robbins.
All right, 1, 2, 3. Thank you. You want me to take one with your phone as well?
Yes, pretty please.
Yeah, of course.
Make sure you get our good side.
The good side? The right angle?
All right, Miss Vicky, next item, please.
Okay, next will be Agenda Item 3C, Presentation of Proclamation to Lance Megyesi in honor of service to the City of Fate.
Whereas we are here today to express our appreciation to Lance Megyesi and honor him for being a dedicated servant to the residents of the City of Fate, and whereas Lance has contributed significantly to the growth and progress of our community through his service on the Fate City Council, including terms as Deputy Mayor Pro Tem and participation on the Fate Charter Commission, Fate Planning and Zoning Commission, Fate Development Corporation Board, and the Fate Public Facility Corporation. And whereas during his time in office, Lant brought a deep passion for scrutinizing financial matters, approaching budgets, expenditures, and fiscal policy with a meticulous eye and unwavering commitment to accountability and sound stewardship of public funds. And whereas Lance has demonstrated a steadfast commitment to public service, thoughtful leadership, and collaborative problem solving that have positively shaped the future of our city. And whereas in recognition of his outstanding service and leadership, it is fitting and proper that we acknowledge Lance's many contributions to the city. Now therefore, I, Andrew Greenberg, Mayor of the City of Fate, on behalf of the City Council, do hereby proclaim the 16th day of May 2025 as Lance Megyesi Day in the City of Fate, and encourage all citizens to join in expressing gratitude to Lance for his dedicated service and to extend our best wishes to him for continued success and fulfillment in all his future endeavors. Thank you, Lance. All right, Ms. Vicky, what's next on our agenda?
Next is Agenda Item 4, public comment, and I've received no request to address the council.
Okay, well, we'll move on then. What's our next item?
Item 5A, discuss, consider, and take any necessary action regarding ordinance number O-2025-017, adopting the amendments to the Home Rule Charter approved by the voters at the May 3rd, 2025 election. So you should have received all of the certified election results. The ballot board met today. There were no changes to the results from the unofficial final to the final. So you received the copy of the certification as well.
And at the prior meeting at 5:30, those results have already been canvassed as well.
Correct.
Okay, great. So do I have a motion?
I make a motion, we approve ordinance number 0-2025-017.
I'll second.
Okay, all right. Any discussion? All right, please vote. I know I pushed it. Okay. All right, passes 7-0. Next item, please.
Next is 5B, discuss, consider, and take any necessary action regarding resolution number R 2025-025, electing a mayor pro tem for the city of Fate for a period of 1 year.
Okay, so do I have any nominations from the council for the position of mayor pro tem?
I'd like to nominate Scott Kelly for Mayor Pro Tem.
I'll second.
Okay, so we have a motion for Mr. Kelly and a second. Any other nominations?
I nominate Mark Harper.
All right, we have a nomination for, okay. Any discussion before we vote? Any more nominations? Okay,
So just a reminder, we need to vote on the nominations in alphabetical order. So we will vote first for, hang on, Mark Harper, and then we'll vote for Scott Kelly.
I have a question. Is it like we do before, if you vote for one, you can't vote for the other? Is that correct?
We only have one seat available, so you can only vote one time. So this will be not an electronic vote as well, because we'll have to vote twice. Yes.
okay, so we're, show of hands, is that what I'm hearing? So, and we'll start with Mark Harper for mayor pro tem. All right, one vote for Mark Harper. For Scott Kelly? Okay, congratulations, Mr. Kelly.
And then we'll just need a motion and to approve the resolution appointing,
I make
Yeah.
a motion, I make a motion that we approve resolution number R-2025-025.
A second.
Okay, any other discussion? All right, please vote. All right, motion passes 6-1. You're getting it whether you want it or not, it looks like. Okay, next item on the agenda, please.
okay. Next is 5B, discuss, consider, and take any necessary action regarding resolution number R 2025-026, electing a deputy mayor pro tem for the city of Fate for a period of 1 year.
Okay, do I have nominations for deputy mayor pro tem?
I'll nominate Mark Harper.
I'll
Okay.
second.
I'd like to nominate Mark Hatley.
Okay,
I
But-
second.
so we have a Mark Harper and a Mark Hatley nomination. Any more nominations? Okay, so again, show of hands, right? And we'll do, oh gosh, y'all's name is
Mark Harper will go.
making me really have to use those kindergarten
Yeah.
skills that I learned when we learned about the alphabet. All right, so for Mark Harper for the position of mayor pro tem, please indicate by raising your hand. Deputy mayor pro tem.
Okay.
Okay. For Mark Hatley, please raise your hand. Okay, so 4-3. So do I have a motion to on the election of Mark Hatley for deputy mayor pro tem?
I'll make a motion for ordinance resolution number R 2025-026 to appoint Mark Hatley, deputy mayor pro tem.
Second.
Okay, any other discussion? All right, you may vote. All right, motion passes 7-0. Congratulations, Mr. Hatley. Next item, Ms. Vicky.
Next will be 5D, discuss, consider, and take any necessary action regarding resolution number R 2025-027, appointing Mayor Andrew Greenberg to the County of Rockwall Emergency Services Corporation, also known as the ESC.
I move we pass resolution number R 2025-027.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All right, we can vote. Okay, motion passes 7-0. Thank you. Ms. Vicky?
Next will be 5E, discuss, consider, and take any necessary action regarding resolution number R 2025-028, appointing a city council member to the Fate MDD Board of Directors to serve the remainder of the unexpired term, which ends July 2025, replacing former council member Alan Robbins.
Now, is this, for clarification, this is a position that whoever accepts this, or whoever we choose tomorrow, there is an MDD meeting that the council member would need to be present for quorum to make?
That is correct.
Okay, and to make sure, and so this will also be until July 2025, at which point another council member would be chosen?
Yes, sir,
Okay.
that's correct.
All right, thank you. So do I have any nominations for the Fate Municipal Development District Number 1 Board?
I'll nominate Rick Maneval for MDD Board.
Okay, I have a nomination for Rick Maneval in a second. Any other nominations? Okay, so I guess we can just go straight into voting on that one.
That is correct.
Okay, so do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion for resolution number R 2025-028 to appoint Rick Maneval to the Fate Municipal Development District Number 1 Board.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right, any other discussion? Please vote. Okay, the motion passes 7-0. Congratulations, Mr. Maneval. All right, next item, please.
Yes, sir. Next will be agenda item 6, which is the budget workshop, and it will encompass A, B, C, D, and E on the agenda.
Okay, Mr. Kovacs?
Yes, sir. We're going to start the budget process in, yep, go ahead. We're going to go to we have a slideshow, of course. All right, we are beginning our budget process. This is we started a little bit late last year because we had the runoff. So we actually skipped this workshop last year, but this year we've got time. We had no runoff, which is a blessing. And so we're going to jump right into it. We're shooting for about an hour, but of course we can take a breaks. We can call recesses. We can go as long as you like, and even order food later if we need to and stay for quite some time. But this is most of this is going to be a preview. We're actually still assembling the budget, but we have enough to where we want to show you kind of some of the big numbers and kind of talk a little bit about that, get you acclimated, and take whatever action. If you want to take action tonight, we can do some of that, but really there's no pressure to do that tonight. It's more of a kind of a preview and get you familiar with what's going on. And of course, there'll be more and more as we go through the budget process. There'll be more and more detail that you get to see as we go. The delivery of the budget is, I think we're shooting for July to have a full budget delivered to the council. All right, so the first thing we should do is recap the strategic priorities and do a little intro. Strategic priorities. Now this was set, we do have some new council members, quite a few new ones. So 3 is kind of the maximum allowed by the charter, so we've got three folks, but this was something set by the earlier council at the beginning of the year, and they, very similar to the prior year, hit some pillars or major focus areas of public safety, resiliency and accountability, a sense of community, sustainable infrastructure and services, and we added one called service excellence and economic growth. And to kind of go into some of the goals behind some of the different pieces here, public safety, of course, this is our number one from a budgetary standpoint. It is our biggest general fund function, so this is very important, of course. Recruit and retain personnel. We want to also provide for effective emergency response. Improve our strategy. We have some good strategy, but we can always do better, so improve some of our strategic things that we're doing. And then, as you can see, we're transitioning to more of a traditional police and fire division, so we have a public safety command structure, and you'll see most notably, what's happening is a recruitment of single certified officers, both in police and fire. And so we're starting, as we assign people to different specialty roles, or we lose people, we're replacing them with traditional police and fire. Part of that is the market. Just it's those kind of people that it's hard to find people who want to do both, increasingly difficult, but also part for operational improvements. Fiscal resiliency and accountability, this is always something that's very important. We want to have an appropriate tax rate, is what the council decided. You want to have an effective revenue management policies. You want to ensure fiscally productive development in the city. That's development that hopefully adds to the bottom line and not detracts from it. And we want to have responsible debt and expense management. To bolster our sense of community, we want to promote community awareness, and through branding and marketing, utilize our community survey to help us frame what we're going to do in the next year, build community connections and engagement, and continue to do effective city messaging. For sustainable infrastructure and services, we want to maintain and develop parks and recreation programming, proactively maintain and improve the existing and new infrastructure in the city, and enhance technology, safety, and security. For service excellence and economic growth, of course, delivering excellent customer service is something that we're striving for, and hopefully you've seen some big strides made, and thank you, Stephen, and everybody else on those committees that we're trying to improve that customer experience. Develop our workforce to be versatile and be able to handle all sorts of things, and then have a resilient business environment, particularly for our small businesses. All right, before I kind of jump into the next thing, do we want to talk anything about the pillars or any of the goals or anything that y'all want to discuss in those? All that's fair game. I just want to pause for a second. Or if you prefer, I can just kind of run through and then we can come back. All right.
Any questions or comments? Okay, please continue.
We talked about this last year. This is something that kind of you have to kind of think a little bit about it for a while. But really, when you're up in a city council position and when you're serving the public, it's really there's really kind of three pieces to that. There's the kind of the people that are here today. So we've got all the voters, we've got the folks that are out here who aren't paying attention, we've got the people who live in town, folks that come by, folks they visit, they're passing through on the highways. So we've got kind of the people here. And then, of course, we've got the people of tomorrow, which, you know, our city's supposed to be, at some point, we're supposed to be a certain population number. Whether we actually get there or not, we don't know. But definitely 5 years ago, if you weren't here 5 years ago, we were doing a lot of work to where you could have water, have police protection, have all those things, have sewer, and all this. There's a lot of work that goes on that you'll see. Sometimes it's frustrating when your growth rate gets above 10%. It seems, for the staff even, it's very frustrating that it seems like all you're doing is working for the new people. Like I said, sometimes during the big booms, I would get frustrated and I would say, it feels like I'm not doing anything for the people that are here. I'm just preparing for the new people all the time. But our growth rate's kind of dropped a little bit, which is nice. So it's a little more comfortable. So we're able to really do things in every different way. But we want to make sure that we have water, so we not have water issues that other folks may have. We have public safety, et cetera, sewer. So we're preparing for the people of tomorrow, the economy, et cetera. And then there's kind of the concept of the physical place. So this is kind of like the geography. And so a lot of us, we're not from here, but we're from somewhere else. But we're here now. And so we don't know how long we'll be here. Maybe it's a decade, maybe it's, you know, maybe we'll retire here. Maybe there'll be some assisted living in some part in the future. But at some point, you know, we may be here a long time. We don't know how long we're going to be here. But while we're here, we've been given this place. And so we're going to the theory is we're going to take care of this place, like maybe perhaps that we wouldn't leave. So that's the other concept of this physical place. And the city began many, many years ago, back in I think it was the 1880s. We were called Barnes, and there was a different location. And there was a big fight between the townspeople where they were going to move the town to. All sorts of good stuff if you can read about our history. And then in 1900, we incorporated. So we've been around for this upcoming will be 125 years. So long time, this physical place. So, and you all want to talk a little bit about that, or? sometimes you just kind of think about it for a while.
I'm just curious, what is our projection in terms of how many people will be here in like 5 years from now?
Ryan is not here, but Steve, you remember the comprehensive plan, what trajectory we're on? I think we're about 300 and, I think we're like 400 houses a year.
Okay.
We got some, whoever's got the best idea.
Yeah, so we're somewhere around 2,000 to 2,500 a year.
Okay.
That's what we're.
Steve
based on
Gilbert?
Our permits, yeah. So.
Director of Building
Very nice.
Safety and other things.
Thank you.
Yeah. So
Any other comments?
Maybe. So some of this is focused on engagement of the people who are here, right? People of today. And you just mentioned 125 years, and that's a big number, and it's an important number. So can we do something to enhance the awareness of that for people, and maybe some kind of little celebration that doesn't cost a lot of money?
Sure. Actually, we do. I think we are going to have some sort of a theme at our Celebrate Fate celebration this fall. So that'll be part of our theme this fall. So we'll work it in with an existing celebration, which is much cheaper, but also important.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else?
Okay, we usually get this question from Lance, but I know that it's a great question, so it'll carry on. And we're always asked, how's this, before we get into next year, how does this year look? Revenue looks pretty good. So on the revenue side, we talked a little bit at the last meeting about sales tax was down a little bit from our forecast, but we think we'll make it up still. We're still confident we will. Building permits have been strong, maybe not so much residential, but commercial, which is what we really want. So we've got good news, lots of good news on commercial building permits. So we're in good shape. Revenue-wise, we're in good shape. Property tax collections was excellent. As of the time of the last report, it was 96%, but then by the time that Raju actually put the numbers in and came to talk to us, it was 99%. So people have been paying their taxes. Excellent. On the spending side, we always shoot for a little bit less. We always shoot for 95% of budget. Raju tries to keep the departments on track so that we have a little bit of cushion. Some of that is natural from salary savings. DPS typically struggles to hire folks, and that's not DPS struggling, it's just the market of police officers. Just a lot of folks want to be police officers like they used to. And so that is tricky to hire that, but I think we've got good news. We've got 4 folks in the pipeline, 3, 4, something like 4 folks, 4 openings, 4 folks. And then, of course, as soon as you get up to staff, you lose somebody, and so you're constantly kind of recruiting. But we have salary savings, so between salary savings and other little projects, we try to come in pretty close to 95. That does create kind of a natural surplus if we're able to do that, but we'd definitely rather have that than a deficit. Other things that may impact like a budget surplus would be, for example, like the commercial building permits coming in a little bit stronger than we predicted. And then, of course, what may put some downward pressure on the revenues would be the sales tax. If the sales tax continues to drag, that'll hurt us a little bit. But we're in pretty good shape. We're on target. Everybody's moving fairly well. The nice thing I like about the department heads here in Fate, especially Chief, is folks don't pull projects out of the air. They don't have a special drawer where they say, oh, I've got savings in this area. Now I have this project that they know wouldn't get approved in the budget process, but because there's money, they'll try and pitch it to you. That happens in other cities, but we don't do that here. We try to if we can come in lower than 95%, that's great. That's one of the ways we paid for the fire engine with cash last year. And so now we got to push it in at the last, that was cash savings from lower spending and higher than expected building permit revenues.
I do have a question.
Yes.
You said that we are not exactly on target with the sales tax revenue. So what happens if at the end of the year we don't make up that? Where do we come up with the extra?
We should be good. In fact, I think building permits will be more than enough the commercial building permits will be more than enough, so we'll be okay. Yeah. And of course, if revenues start to really decline, let's say we go into some sort of a national emergency or things happen, we have a recession plan, and it's tied to certain targets, and if certain revenue targets are missed, then we go into various stages of a recession plan, and spending starts to come down. And we have all sorts of different measures that we start throwing those levers.
So, I'm sorry, question, as it relates to surpluses, I know last year, we had a pretty good idea we were gonna have a surplus because of the aggressive nature of building permits, and I think we budgeted that low last year based on the year before. But this year, as it relates to surplus and/or deficit, when are we really gonna have a good idea on that? Are we still about a month out, 60 days out, or are we projecting right on track right now?
What do you think, Reju? I know
Just trying to figure out.
I'm looking at the financial report for the projections right now.
It's falling apart. Okay. Yeah, I mean, if everything goes well the way it is now, we end up the fiscal year with about $1 million surplus. Yeah, plus or minus.
Okay, so what, again, this is as much for the new members as anything, but last year we made the surplus decision.
Yes.
It was really made in the last probably 30 to 45 days of the budget cycle. Are we looking at that same time frame if we do have $1 million surplus, what we do with those funds? Will we?
Yeah, we like to hold our fire till the very last minute, but yes, we could probably do something similar, or maybe earlier. Reju?
And I'm not saying it has to be earlier, it's more for the benefit of the new members to understand what that process looks like, so that we, as we get the budget updates every month from Raju, we can keep track on it.
Every month, the part of the financial report, there is a surplus projection. That is part of the financial statement. So I update that every month.
Okay.
Based on the past and the future forecast.
Okay.
So
and just again for the new members, as we have a surplus, that has to be that doesn't need to be invested in anything general budget related. It really needs to be capital one-time investment related.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So you could transfer it. We've done in years past. We've done fire trucks. You could transfer it to a capital project fund, a capital replacement fund. Streets. We've done some street maintenance surges.
Yeah, we did a
drainage. We've done
fire
drainage
truck,
projects.
and also we front-loaded the road construction maintenance fund, 1.5 million.
Okay, perfect.
With the
Thank
surplus,
you.
Yeah.
Okay, and so question for that, from part of the process, what that looks like, I'm guessing, is we'll say, okay, so we have this $1 million, and then you guys will make recommendations on what to do with that. Is it a final recommendation that you guys have made, or is it like hey, here are the top 3 things that we think would be good to use this $1 million for, and then we would discuss that back and forth?
We've done it different ways. We've brought recommendations, and of course we have
usually
options.
give like 3 to 4 different options.
Okay, perfect.
You can pick and choose.
Make it hard for us.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, let's take a look at maybe some revenue policy previews. Property tax, our favorite subject. Of course, the DPS bond was approved by the voters, and we got a nice interest rate on that. I believe it was 3.9? Yeah, 3.9% interest rate in the climate where the funny interest rates were taking place. There's definitely a tax impact for the bond. I think we calculated it last year at about $161 per household for the average home. And so we've got that is starting. So that'll go out in that will be part of this budget process, is to fund the bond in that what we call an interest and sinking fund. So we've got that. On the operations side, we've got a few options. We've got what's called the de minimis rate, which is essentially the $500,000 from the existing taxpayers in new revenue. And so that is above typically what they paid last year. So it's a little bit, only small towns can use it. You have to be 30,000 and less to use that per the census. So we're eligible for that. There's all sorts of different state laws to eliminate the de minimis rate. We don't know what's going to pass at this point. So it's still very early. But that's been a historical policy of ours, but we don't always have to use it. As we get more into detail, we'll show you kind of what the budget looks like with the different rates. There's also, sir.
Oh, I was going to say, when are we projected to hit 30,000 or more people?
We might be there. I think we're about 20. It depends which statistics you use. I think the COG showed us at 28,000 in January.
Will that go into effect at the next census, though, or does it happen before the official?
Sure, from the way the legislature works, it's got to be the census. So the next U.S. Census official numbers have to come out, and then that's official. Of course, we could always adopt, we could always declare ourselves 30,000 and kind of adopt it, a policy of our own to not use the de minimis rate, but that would be up to us, or you all, actually. The other policy, slightly less than the de minimis rate, is the 3.5 plus growth or the voter approval rate. And so all these terms are very difficult, and they change them all the time. They'll probably change them again this year. But essentially what that means is you've got the existing tax base, you get the growth, and also with the de minimis, you get the growth in the tax base. We had about 263 million in tax base growth, which we'd like to see more. That's kind of light, but we've got a lot of stuff coming on, so we should see more next year, hopefully. But you get essentially the revenue from the existing folks with a base of 3.5%. It's like an inflationary increase, and it's capped at 3.5. If we go over 3.5, and I didn't put this on here because we've never really used it, but we could actually go beyond the de minimis rate, but that sends it to an automatic election. So we have an election on the tax rate. It's a funny date in November, I believe, and it's a little bit farther out. It makes implementing the budget very difficult because you have to kind of know you don't know what your tax rate is, so you've almost got to have a quarter at the old tax rate. If you lose the election, you go to the 3.5 plus growth. So there's not a lot of penalty for losing the election, but you have to hold an election, so you have the election expense. It may not be on a uniform election date. It might be a funky date, and then you can't really adopt your budget. The de minimis rate also has a risk because someone could petition, folks could petition to send it to an election. So there's a little bit of a risk to using the de minimis rate too. It's not a perfect system. The other option is what's called the no new revenue rate. Now the no new revenue rate sounds scary to us government folks because everything costs more, but really it's growth plus, so you get the growth, but from the existing taxpayers, you don't get any extra funds. So whatever they paid last year, they pay this year. That would apply to the operations side, but not necessarily the debt side. So you still have the debt coming on for the DPS bond, but from an operations standpoint, they would pay the same amount. You'd realize the revenue only from the growth. And so when in big growth years, that's easy to do. In kind of smaller growth years, it's a little bit trickier to do, depending on what's happening. And then, of course, the good news is the state. I believe the governor signed it, or he's in the process of signing it, but we have an extra homestead, and it looks like I have my cheat sheet, which Omar has made for me, which I'm now trying to find. But we have a projected property tax savings, and the state looks like it's going to be about $15 a month for the average person, so about $181 a year for the state homestead exemption increase. So if you live in the house that you own and you filed for a homestead extension, you've been accepted, you can see probably about $181 savings above, so below $181 below what you would pay, and that's the school rate. It's about $15 a month. And these are based on a $370,000 house. $378,445 is the current average tax value. And we use that for Rockwall Independent School District. There's two sides of the city, Rockwall, Royce City. The Royce City savings should be about the same as well. All right. And of course, there's been quite a bit of discussion about homestead or not. Y'all saw that discussion at the last council meeting. So we'll be bringing forth some ordinances on the homestead options, and y'all can figure out what you want to do with those. But all of those, of course, will potentially raise the rate, shift the tax burden around, and so we can get you some numbers on some of that stuff. We can talk about that a little bit more if you'd like, or we can come back and kind of run through it and come back if you want, or we can just keep moving, and then at our next workshop, we'll have a lot more information on tax rates and some options and what the impacts of those are, because sometimes it's hard to make a tax policy discussion without knowing what the impacts are. All right, garbage, always a fun topic, but very critical public service. We have a contract with Waste Connections. We are entering the part of the process where we're going to have a potential to extend the contract. We have a contract extension that we can execute. We're expecting to see there's a CPI increase in that in the existing contract, which is about we're estimating about a 3 to 5% increase. Fuel's been pretty good, so usually fuel drives the CPI increase, but we think it's about 3 to 5%. So if we come in at 5%, it's about 99 cents plus sales tax. So $1.07, something like that. So hopefully less than $1 on the trash rate. Fees. So last budget we eliminated. We had a street user fee, and we eliminated. It was about $3 a month. That reduced our revenues for about $350,000 from the operating budget. But we had a pretty good year with sales tax, so the sales tax and property tax de minimis rates kind of stepped in and filled that gap. So we were able to balance the budget without using a fee. So we do have fees. Fees are still on the table. They've been kind of unpopular. We passed a fee. People complain, and we retract the fee. But fees, you can't use fees for. You can't kind of make up fees. You have to kind of use fees that are within the state guidelines or generally within the case law of what is allowed. So there's certain things that we could charge fees for. There's certain things we can't. We do a pretty decent job of making sure we use the other people's money rather than putting it on the water bill. But there are some things you could charge on the existing bill. We've not done that, but that if we get into a pinch, that is a possible revenue source. Water and sewer rates, good news so far. We've got a rate study kicking off, but Raju and I and Teresa looking kind of very quickly, and Scott looking at kind of where we are right now. We don't think we're going to see a rate increase. It's still early, but of course we'll have the consultant NewGen pour over our information, make sure that we're not missing anything, and that but we look like we're in pretty good shape right now. We've got all of our debt covered. We've got operations pretty well covered, so. Good shape. We've got a new water contract that's kicking in, that's helping a little bit. And there is, of course, just as we finished the new water contract for Pump Station 3 and the new take point, we've got a new contract coming with North Texas to implement more of the district and the customer cities work. And we talked a little bit about that a few years ago, but essentially it's taken 3 years for the customer cities. These are the non-member cities of the North Texas Municipal Water District. We're a customer city along with most of the other cities. And so we've met with the district with a small group, and we've been able to negotiate a new contract essentially that takes in some of the some more advantages of the new contract mechanism. And so that should help long-term some of our water rates. And so we'll have to be implementing a new contract for water. And then of course when we do the North Tower, we'll need a new take point for the North Tower. The council directed us to go ahead and close on that property. So that is for a North Water Tower. So we'll need a supply line and a take point from North Texas, which may trigger another contract. But hopefully that one's a few years away. But we will need to work on this one. But hopefully no rate increase with water and sewer, which is great because it's already pretty high. Okay, operating expense previews. This is the part I don't like because we'll just do a quick overview, like how do we get into these? Of course, we will look at your policies. We look at your goals in the budget process that we've kicked off in the goals and the strategic workshop. We also kind of have just to let you know our perspective, we try to grow our expenses pretty conservatively. We focus on DPS and road needs primarily. We try to make a best value approach to any additional spending that we may want to propose to you. Kind of inflation kind of continues. I know the official rates are coming down, but it's still, the last few years, it's been still quite a bite. When you go to buy something that you bought, 5 years ago or 10 years ago, we've all done it, right? We've all bought something and we're like, what? How much was that? 5 years ago, it cost, $200. Now it's $500. Like, how is this possible? But, so we try to empathize with our citizens on inflation. But we don't want to ignore our maintenance responsibilities because that just snowballs costs in the future. So that's kind of our approach. We just kind of throwing an introduction, we haven't been able to fund, you're gonna see a bunch of either multi-million dollar or six-figure initiatives that we're trying to figure out how to do. We can't, right now, figure them all out. We can't fund them all. And so we're going through this process, but we want to kind of get you thinking about some of the different things that we're wrestling with right now and trying to figure out how we can do part of it or all of it in some of these, or maybe how we approach these or push one to another year. But it's just like any budget, you can't do everything. So here's kind of what we're looking at right now, just to give you kind of a preview. Road maintenance, we've been increasing our road spending. So you might have seen that stepping up about $500,000 per year. That was one of the ways that we're trying to take care of our road system. We estimate, using kind of Scott and Omar's figures on maintenance, we're trying to get to about $4 million in the very near future. We've got enough roads to where we think that's a good number as far as the maintenance number, looking at different studies and how much road mileage we've got. We've got a very new road system, so we're in good shape with that. But what the scary part of that is a lot of these roads are concrete, and so your concrete looks fantastic. You see some broken curb and some little issues and some bird baths and some lifting that we can do. We can do a lot of that sort of stuff, but then concrete really starts kicking us about 30 years in. So about those last 10 years, between the years 30 and 40, are the worst for the concrete roads. Asphalt's kind of a continuous issue, labor of love. But so we're trying to move our contracts amount, if we can, up about $500,000 per year. That would get us to $2 million in our contracts. We've got about $500,000 in our existing city staff, and we do a lot of maintenance ourselves now. We're doing more and more of our maintenance. We want to try and get it to $4 million. Eventually, we'd like to get it to $7 million, and I'll show you kind of why we're trying to get there. But roads, definitely important. And of course, we've got this new software program that we're playing with that helps us kind of figure out where we are, and we're using some best value calculations in different ways, but it'll recommend different things like overlays, replace certain roads, seal coating, patching, and so forth. And this is year 1 and year 2, but we're working on that. We don't know if we can quite fund it this year, but we're gonna try and get there. Street maintenance. Some of you may have not seen this. We will get you a copy of the plan. We have a road replacement plan. Phase 1, we're working on phase 2 and how we would actually execute this. But here is what we did. We basically, for those of you who've seen this, bear with us for a second, but this is a road replacement plan. So what we did is we took every subdivision in the city, and we saw when the developers essentially gave us like a birthday present. Here's your road. And so now the road belongs to the people of the city, and we know that roads last roughly 40 years. We use 40 years in the ACFR and the accounting system and reporting. And so it's pretty easy. You can kind of see when those roads start to have issues. So really, we've got some older roads in town. You'll say, well, we've got some older roads than 40 years before 2035. But we do. Most of them are asphalt. We're kind of babying them and redoing them. You'll see a lot of work on those asphalt roads. But we wanted to focus on a lot of these are the new things, like the new concrete roads that have been going in. So Spring Meadow is our first big master plan community, then came Wood Creek. And you'll see as these subdivisions and sections of subdivisions arrive, we just forecast 40 years out and project. These are in today's dollars. And so it really begins, we've got about a decade to prepare for this, but then you see street replacement begins. So this is something that we're not funding at this point, but we're going to come up with some strategies and come back to y'all to talk about how do we start saving money, how do we start mitigating some of the costs of the street replacement. So it's kind of scary.
Okay, so just to make sure I understand, it's like right here, 2035, 6.8 million. As of right now, we're not putting anything toward what that 6.8 million cost would be, or, so when you had said we'd like to get up to 7 million, increasing to up to 7 million, where does that fit into this?
7 million would be for maintenance. Ideally, you'd have 7 million for maintenance, and then you'd have 7 million to do replacement. So you're maintaining your system. Meanwhile, you're saying these roads are dead, we're going to replace them. Ideally, that's where we are. Can we ever get there? We can. It's just expensive. So if Worst case scenario, if we arrive in 2035 and we've never been able to get our maintenance up, theoretically, you could say, okay, I need all the maintenance budget to do replacement on these particular streets because we can't baby them anymore, they're done. And so at that point, you only have $125,000 to fill a few potholes. And so your system, your other roads start to degrade faster.
What's the number we're using for amount per lane mile now? What is that number?
4.2 for replacement. New construction, we're about 3, what do we get, about 3.5, depends. Yeah, we got some good bids. But we're about 3.5 million for a new road. And so the nice part of a new road is and of course, we close roads a lot, which kind of annoys people, but we're able to get our costs down and we're able to move a lot faster when we close a road, though it is very inconvenient. But you can see when you've got greenfield or you're able to close a road, you don't have to do traffic control. Maybe the water line is still good underneath or the sewer lines are still good underneath. But there is an advantage to replacing the water and sewer lines. So eventually, at some point, if we can time, this is one of the things that we talked about in the article. We were able to submit an article to TML. It was in the magazine for May. We'll get you a copy. If we're able to do water and sewer simultaneously with the road replacement, we can bring water and sewer revenue into that and maybe cover half of those costs. So there's a bunch of strategies we're going to use to try and take this, try to take this apart to where we can accomplish it.
So what was the 4.2 was for what?
4.2 is for replacement of a street.
Okay.
So that
And
is
3.5 was for a new piece.
For a new street, yeah. So greenfield is always easier to do than going into an existing area.
What was that up from last year?
We used to use 2 million a lane mile for a while, and then a few years ago, I think 5 years ago, we were using 1.5 million, and then pre-pandemic, we were using like 2017, 2018, we were using like $1 million a lane mile. So construction cost has been a big problem for roads. If someone could figure out a way to do roads cheaper, that would be stellar. There's just not a good feedback loop or competition system that's encouraging people to get the cost down on roads. So I know there's some experimentation going on. USDOT's got an office that's doing that. TxDOT's got an office that does that. UT Arlington has got some folks working on road technology, but it's not there yet. So hopefully we can start. If in the next decade we can see some technology improvements to where we can do a lot cheaper, or we can start preparing ourselves. But this is why suburbs die, is the roads go. When the roads go, kind of everything else starts to kind of go at the same time. Homes, at the same time, because your home is now 40 years old. So you have an older home, your road is dying, and so what's your city's condition? Can they afford, do they have enough revenue in their business and mixed use areas to be able to support what's going on to replace those streets?
Okay, I had a question. I think he
Oops,
just
what did I do?
answered my,
Sorry about that. Oh,
my question. So we're talking about every road in the city, even residential streets?
Yes.
At 40 years, they have to be replaced.
Right. Sometimes you can get some of the new water lines. We're getting 50 years out of them. So if the lines, because you've got kind of 4 things going on in a road. You've got wastewater, water, and stormwater, and then you've got the rebar in the concrete. So all those things kind of have to continue to work at the same time, or else you start to lose the road. But yeah, 40 years, if we can get 50 out of them, that's great. The nice thing with asphalt roads is some of these roads we've had forever, and maybe we can have them forever if we could maintain them right. It's just, it takes a lot of money to kind of continuously work on those. So we're gonna try and use the best case scenario. You saw a slide back here where it's talking about, let me go back, this peach color, where the software is telling us to replace some of those roads. We're probably not gonna do that. We're probably gonna use that money that the software is telling us to replace these roads. We're gonna be a little bit choosy this year due to some of the stuff that's going on in the legislature, but also just to kind of be best stewards. And we're gonna probably focus on, instead, some more preventative maintenance on the existing system and not necessarily replace those roads, but we'll have to cross that bridge with Scott and the team when we come to it, coming up pretty quick here. So we're going to do our best to use the money that we've got most efficiently, but we probably need to double our, somehow over the next few years, we need to double our road maintenance budget, and we think about $500,000 a year in step is a sustainable rate to do that, if we can afford it. Okay, public safety, something else we're wrestling with is, of course, is police officer salaries. The arms race on police officer salaries continues, and who would have thought that some of the starting salaries that we're seeing in police? It's fantastic. We love it that people are paid well, and we want to definitely step up and be with the rest of the Metroplex cities. And so this is probably one of the most expensive areas in the state to have a police force. And of course, we are the sixth or eighth, both. I think we got different stats on both those different less crime, safest cities in Texas. So we're looking at we have a general pay plan implementation for public safety and for the general civilians. We're looking at about $215 to $264. That does not include a cost of living or a step adjustment. Sometimes when we do the pay plan, and I don't want to get into too much detail, I know Lee's back there and she's giving me the eye, but you want to make sure that public safety, if we can, if public safety at least gets a step. So sometimes the market say, give your police officers an X% raise, but it lands right in the middle of this step plan. So they're kind of a military type, paramilitary step plan on the public safety side, not on the civilian side. We're in a range. But on that side, they've got a step system. So you have to make sure that the raise doesn't land in the middle of the step. Anyway, some technical stuff there. But so we're still trying to figure that impact out. It could be a little bit higher than that. Public safety staffing. We talked a little bit about fire calls overlapping. Chief, in April, I think you told me 21. So 21 days or 21 times. So in April, there were 21. What we look for is overlapping calls. So we've got a medical call, we've got an accident on the highway. Y'all can probably hear the sirens going all the time. It's a bit scary out there. But we had 21 occurrences in April where we had all medical forces deployed essentially, and we had another call come in. And so that takes a PSO. We've got some folks that have dual certification, chiefs even in EMT. A lot of our officers are EMTs, and so we can send people to those medical calls. Maybe it's a heart attack. We've got AEDs in the cars. So there's a lot of things that we can do before the ambulance gets there, but we had more than one a day if you were going by 30 days in a month or 31 days. So we wanted to kind of stay with that public safety strategic plan, and we're recommending to add 3 firefighters next year and get them all their first year gear. It's about $400,000 to add to the budget. That would allow us to deploy some extra guys, basically 2 apparatus with 2 folks on it each, if I'm right. And then something else we've been looking at, there's a window for, I know you all love the pictures. Omar was going through the pictures. But I know that guy. We know those guys, don't we? There he is.
We'll do a recreation of this picture here soon.
They're a little bit younger, not that much, right? Wasn't that long ago. But other cities around us have what's called a retiree cost of living increase. If you've got retirees, there's a window for us to adopt that TMRS, the Texas Municipal Retirement System. They're trying to open that window a little bit longer. So there's some legislation. We think it's going to pass. That'll give us some breathing room. But I think we need to do it this year or next year, Lee. I think there's a limit coming up. This year is the only year guaranteed. If the bill goes through in the legislature, then there should be more time for us to consider it. But if we wanted to do this, you can also adopt like a 50% or a 70% COLA. And so you never give the retirees the full cost of living, but you could give them something. I think Roy City's got a 0.7. and Rockwall's got a 0.7, so it's common. We have a 0 at this point, so we have none of those. That would cost about $350,000. Some of that's payable in the utility fund because we've got utility fund workers. About 315 would be in the general fund, and about half of that would go to public safety. You'll notice that when you're in the general fund, a lot of times you'll see these big increases in staffing or costs or whatever in benefits and salary and stuff like that. And a lot of it's going to public safety, which is okay. That's great, but that is a essential function, and it's expensive. So that's something else we're trying to figure out how we could do. On the capital side, capital's not as scary because we've got different impact fees, we've got bond funds and so forth, and we've got some savings. The big project right now, of course, is the big, and we're just showing you the big ones. The DPS police station, $15.7 million, that's the flagship project right now, and we're in the process of the architectural design. And hopefully we're gonna get into bidding next year. I think we're gonna get into bidding, so we may be awarding a contract and off we go for construction. It's gonna take a year and a half for construction once we get going, possibly a little bit less. So that's the flagship capital project for the budget. Miss May Drive, we're gonna be finishing off Miss May Drive, and that's not the total cost of the project, but it is what we expect to spend in next year, so about $4.5 million. And part of that's, of course, covered by the county. The county's coming in with $2 million. Thank you, Commissioner Stacy. Well, he's gone, but thank you, Commissioner Stacy, and the judge and all those guys for helping, gentlemen. And then, of course, the school district just approved the interlocal agreement. They're covering 1/3 of the cost, so 1/3 of the total cost. And then we have the impact fee fund for the city that's going to be covering the portion that's in the city limits. So for our money, we're not using road bond money or general fund operating money. We're using developer-paid impact fees because it's on the list and we've got funds in that fund. So that's the proposal for next year, to finish Miss May Drive, get it open. And then South Side Fire Station remodel, that's part of the DPS bond. That's a pretty good amount there, 1.5. Timing on that, I know we'll have to play with a little bit there. We don't want to necessarily have a station open but not be able to afford firefighters to put in it. So we'll have to try and time the arrival there. We can still use our firefighters even if we don't have the building. Let's say the building lags a bit for whatever reason. We can still use the firefighters in the existing main station, so.
Question, were those 3 firefighters, were they to staff part of that south side station? Okay.
Yes, it would be nice to put them there. If it's ready, if the station's ready and the people arrive at the same time, we can do that. Or we can put them in the main station. We've got some versatility there.
Like I think, Chief, I think the plan is at this point to keep them in the downtown station and run 2 shifts out of that.
Yeah, we're gonna do that. We're gonna do that probably for about a year or so. And then I think we'll probably time it'll be tricky, I know, because I know the guys want to get in on the remodel of the downtown station too. So get some of those bunk rooms done.
So the 3 are what we need to open the station, or are there going to be more that we need to open the station?
There'll need to be more.
Yeah, we'll need some more after that. So this is kind of a multi-year plan. Chief, we're probably adding another 3 next year, 3 or 4 firefighters.
So it was like a 3-year plan to escalate into the south station so we could slowly go into it instead of coming to y'all and saying, I need 9 people. And so that we could ease into it a little bit more. But we currently use them now as well. And so one of the things Mr. Kovacs was talking about is that with these 3, we could operate out of 2 apparatus. So we can help with these overlapping calls. And then our ultimate goal is to get a 3-man crew downtown and a 3-man crew on the south side. And so that's our end result in the next 2.5 years, timings.
Budget cycles.
I guess the reason for my question is we got these large projects for next year. One of them is the Southside Station remodel. If we're doing the Southside Station remodel, we sort of need the people to put in there to make it worthwhile of remodeling it, right? So.
Yeah, some of the meetings we've had with the architect that we just kind of started, some of the timing was probably where the police building and the Southside building would probably finish at the same time.
Okay.
Because we'll use some of the same contractors back and forth. And so that's kind of the 1.5 to 2-year mark.
All right, that makes more sense. Thanks.
Yeah, well, so we'll need a couple.
Just for everybody's I know how to work this, I think. When you talk about three-man crews, you're talking about 2 three-man crews in each station. So 6 crews, just for.
Six personnel per day.
Correct.
Right.
Thank you.
So 2 crews, basically two
2
crews.
per
20
station.
24 hours.
Right.
Yeah.
So 2 on the source, 2 on the north side, 2 on the south side, but they're 12-hour shifts. So basically, there's a crew on all the time on both sides of town.
Well, the
48.
fire staffing is a little bit different hours, but you were correct on.
I'm sorry,
it'd be-
24
At the
hours.
end result, when we.
End result's
staff that,
12 people.
will be
48 on,
Will be
6 off.
6 people per day.
Okay.
So there'll always be 6 people on duty.
Okay, I'll wait for my next question, just for random.
Good, 4896. Right. 4896, I'm trapped in the past. All right. Road bond balance, so we do have some good news. Looks like preliminarily, we have about 1.4 million in road bonds from other project savings. So we funded Gettysburg East, that's building. That is the last bond project, so we have some funds. If we have a road project that comes up or a road replacement we need to do, we can use those monies. We could also hold them and we can put them in the budget so they're ready to go if we have a road project that pops up, or we can put those in for next year. We do have to spend those money, and it's got monies, and they do have to be on roads in a way that the work has to last essentially the length of the bond. So it would be good to do like a road replacement. So if we have a road replacement that pops up that we want to do, we've got some savings. Wood Creek Boulevard went over budget significantly, but we had other savings in other projects, and we retooled some of the other projects, so we were able to come up with, and we did some developer public-private partnerships the last couple of roads, North Bend Payne and Gettysburg, and that saved us some money, we think. So we've got some bond balance. And then Gettysburg to Blackland, we just talked about that. We'll be finishing that off. It's almost $1 million. It's going on most of it's going to get done this fiscal year. And then the downtown fire station remodel, also part of the DPS bond, about $500,000. So, and the timing on that, we'll have to play with the timing on that to make sure it all works with chief staffing and other improvements. So that is the big CIP. That is pretty well. Any questions on the large CIP
I
items?
just had a question. I see 17.7 million on here for DPS bond items. So we've already spent 2.3 for the fire truck?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. We've actually transferred, we haven't had to pay yet, but we've transferred the money into the capital replacement fund, so it's sitting there and earning interest while we wait for the truck to when we get delivery, we'll pay that amount. All right. And then the budget calendar. So we have upcoming, our next budget special meeting is the 23rd of June. And then we go right into, we have all sorts of other activities. And then you all come back July 21st. And then we've got another meeting August 11 and August 18. At that point, we're pretty well done. So it's a fairly compressed schedule. We'll get you, some of y'all, if you haven't had your we call it Finance 101, we'll set some times up with the finance director and I, and we'll take you one-on-one and walk you through and answer all the different questions about fund accounting and of course, answer a lot of other sidebar questions, which is always a ton of fun. But we'll take you through the budget process. This is still the development part. We can't afford everything that we want in the budget at this point, and we do have some big goals that we want to hit. We've heard from y'all what's important, and we're trying to kind of fit all that in. But we do want to, at this point, get y'all thinking about, okay, how's this going to work with revenues? What do I want to do with the homestead? How the different tax policies doing? Do we want to touch fees? Do we want to try and do some extra savings? Where else could we cut? Some of these different you'll notice some of these different six-figure CIP projects. This one's like, I'll just go into like debt, and this one's kind of a three-party agreement, which is impact fees, and then it's debt. This is leftover debt, and then debt. So really, these are all debt service. Sort of, there's no actual operating budget major CIP, that's 500,000 and above. We do have some other capital improvement stuff, but we're showing you the big stuff at this point. So that's kind of all I had. I know I talked for a long time, but I wanted to at least get you all a pretty decent preview of the budget and what we're looking at. Would you all like to talk about anything in the slides or ask any questions or take a recess and then come back and talk some more at this point? I know it's hard to really kind of jump in without seeing the book in front of you and all the line items. It's hard to kind of see what the trade-offs would be. Sometimes you run into cities, and I've managed these cities where they kind of go through these periods where you have a beverage with the mayor at a local establishment, and he tells you, we got to go to the no new revenue rate. It's just, we have to do it this year. And you say, okay, well, there's that budget process. You have a revenue constraint, or you have a council that says, I don't care, but nothing can ever go up. So just make it work. If your trash rate goes up, you have to cut the water rate. And so sometimes you get into those policies, and then that puts that constraint on the budget. In this case, it's when you've got a little bit of flexibility, it's almost harder. It's harder to do the budget because you have these choices that you have to make. And sometimes it's, $15 this way or $18 that way. And it's, of course, everybody's got an opinion on what the right thing is, but we'll always suggest what we think is kind of the best for you. We'll give you lots of options and let you all decide what you like to do. We want to do what's best for the overall city.
Any thoughts from the council? I do have a question for the four, for the four that are well established on the council. Kind of from a 30,000-foot view, what would you say, as the three of us new ones try to, start to digest all of this, what are some things to consider that once you got it, once it clicked, it made it a little bit easier to get through the process that we can take going into looking through all of this stuff? Any thoughts on that?
Keep an open mind to the fact that we may have to do the de minimis rate to be able to pay for the additional additions to DPS. That money has to come from somewhere, so.
Okay.
Yeah, I think what I would say, and I've got some clarification questions just to kind of try and put a bow on some of the stuff Michael said, but obviously no new tax rate's ideal. That's what we want to do. As a council, we've been proud that we've been able to lower the tax rate for the last number of years when bonds weren't involved. If you take the effect of voter-approved bonds out of the equation, the council, before I was on it, has had a trend of being able to lower the effective tax rate for our citizens. But while doing that, what the council has done, because we are in a growing city and we've got growing demands, and that's an important note, is that we have a DPS department that we have to continue to build out. We have staff that if you compare our staff to other cities around North Texas, we are, no other way to look at it, understaffed compared to other cities. And we have a staff that is very resourceful in the way that they do things and operate in order to make the best use of dollars. But we're a growing city with growing needs, and growing needs takes growing funds. So as we're talking about this, whether we're looking at the de minimis rate or no new tax rate, what we have to understand is, okay, we need X million dollars to operate, and then we've got to figure out what our priorities are. Do we want to continue to take care of our roads, or do we want to punt some road issues down for future councils to take care of? Do we want to grow our DPS, or do we want to just maintain the status quo? Do we want to take other staff needs, whether it's in our planning department, our streets department, our water department? That they're not easy decisions. So even though we have lowered the tax rate over the last number of years, effectively we have increased taxes. But the argument to that, and the way I've always justified that to myself, is we are making investments today that are going to pay off down the road. So what we have to look at is for those dollars that the staff is asking over and above what the no new tax rate is. What are we getting for that? And to wrap a bow on it, Michael, I'm sorry, because what I'm hearing is essentially about $1.2 million worth of extra spending this year, whether it's the $500,000 in road maintenance, the potential cost of living increase for DPS of $350,000, $400,000 for three new firemen. That's about a $1.2 million ask. So we either go back into what we've done in the past and see where cuts can be made, and I give staff and Raju and everybody a lot of credit for being efficient on that front, or do we have to go above the no new tax rate, and is that expense justifiable to our citizens? And I think the council has always in the past been able to justify those tax increases, but it's not easy because it's not our money. We're asking our citizens to pay it, so.
And I will just add that when I started on the council 2 years ago, that the road building cost was 1.8 million. So it's 3.2 now, 3.5. So anything that we punt is just going to be exorbitantly more expensive in the future, so.
I was just going to say, I think with this next year, we know that the DPS is a focal point for us, and you know, I think that the no new revenue rate is ideal, but it's going to be very challenging to hit that mark while providing raises for our DPS, which I think they desperately need in order to attract good police officers here. The surrounding cities, they pay a little more and they have newer facilities. Obviously, we're working on getting that newer facility, but it's going to take some time. And then also with the road maintenance, we have a lot of that. So, you know, when you come on, you really want to lower taxes because that's what everybody wants. But I think that's one of the reasons why Project Cactus was so important, because it is going to bring in that sales tax revenue. Like this year, we're a little bit behind. Hopefully we catch up. But, you know, I don't think we're going to be able to do the de minimis rate anymore after this year. When is the next census? Do we know?
Isn't it 2030? Yeah, 2030. And it takes them a while to figure out what they just did.
Okay. Yeah, those are my thoughts.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Hatley, do you have anything?
I was just going to say, if we were, everybody wants to, of course, as a goal, wants to go after the no new revenue rate is try to come up with your numbers sooner rather than later. We, you know, as we were new on the council last year, so we started looking at no new revenue when monies had already been kind of allocated. So we were talking about at a certain point, by the time we were looking at it, we would have had to make $750,000 in cuts, which, I mean, if you had a $2 million surplus, you might have been able to do that. But we also bought a fire truck and things like that. So the earlier you can kind of get on those and kind of look at the budget, and like I said, it's tough. I mean, because it's thrown in front of you very, very early. And now understand is the word. You know, now go through it. So if the goal was to try to get to a no new revenue tax rate, then to and a budget is go look at it as soon as you can. On there.
Okay, thank you. Did you have any questions? Were you going to ask?
Again, my question is just, well, as it relates to, so right now you're operating under the not understanding, but the mode that the ask is going to be for 3 new DPS fire, nothing else for water, streets, so it's going to be straight DPS this year.
Yes, sir. Only three positions, all DPS.
Okay, and so as it relates to those other areas, are we looking at, because I know they have asks and have needs, especially as we, you know, the new pump station's going to come on, we're going to have to plan for new water towers, so our maintenance needs are just going to increase, and our planning needs are going to increase. Is that stuff we're gonna be looking at again for next year? Or obviously DPS is the huge priority, but we've got a lot of other areas within the department within the departments with streets, water, wastewater, all that have needs. So how are we gonna look at that and address that?
Fortunately, water, wastewater is paid for out of the utility fund, and so in that respect, we're in good shape. I think Scott's got a very efficient operation. He's got a great group of folks. You can see their kind of certifications building. The system is getting older, of course, but we're getting it bigger and bigger. People keep giving us, as we grow, water lines and sewer lines. But, so we evaluate that every year with him. And so water and sewer, we're not so worried about, because as you've got customer growth, there's ways to cover that. Steve's been doing some different things. You can see we're contracting certain things, and certain things we're taking care of ourselves. So he's continuing to work on that as far as the level of service. That'll be something that we'll have to really watch. So probably next year we're gonna have to take a look at that. So every year we take a look at our staffing needs, and we're pretty frugal about that, because every time when you look at the healthcare costs and you look at cost of living, and if you have a really big staff, then it just becomes more and more burdensome. Like, how do you keep up with competitive salaries and so forth? If you're smaller, there's more work to be done, but you can take care of your people better. So that's kind of always been our philosophy. We wanted to grow as our population grows, we want to kind of grow our employee rate, but not grow it as a rate that our citizens are growing. And if we're using our comprehensive plan, in theory, we're keeping our city fairly tight, and that keeps our service areas fairly small. We don't have a lot of new facilities or new parks that we're putting in. We will have some upgrades to the downtown park. So as we add capital facilities, of course, now you've got a Southside Station, you got to take care of that. You got to pay for the air conditioning bill. You got to have someone clean it, et cetera, et cetera. So there will be other needs. We put in a new road. We have to mow the grass on the new road. So there's all sorts of small operational increases that come with capital projects, but we're trying to keep it as tight as we can. So we look at it every year.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? You have something, Ms. Huffman?
Well, so we started the conversation talking about a $1 million surplus this year. And then there are all kinds of expenses that you've highlighted for upcoming consideration for the budget. And then there's revenue that we get that can only be spent in certain categories of expenses. And I'm hoping that there's some kind of spreadsheet that I can look at that gives me an overall big picture of the spending and revenue.
Yes. We have a budgeting software system called OpenGov, and when we put the budget together, you'll have access. We actually give the council members access to the budget builder side, so you can kind of see what the staff sees. You have basically a read-only version, but in there's all sorts of information. As we get into our next workshop, we're going to have a lot more detail as far as where we're going. But yeah, we don't get into the spreadsheets or the data dumps probably until July. We try to focus y'all on the kind of the big numbers as much as possible. But we can go, as there's different interest in that, we can go, earlier if possible and get you all different information. But we want to focus on. I know sometimes there's a debate about $10,000 here or $20,000 there, but we kind of like to show you like the $1 million issues, and then it kind of puts it all in perspective, hopefully. So,
Mr. Maneval?
I wanted to say something about the $1 million surplus. Is that going to be a general fund surplus?
Yes.
Okay.
That's the best kind.
I guess I'm early on in this process, but we had a $2 million surplus last year, and then we're looking at $1 million this year. So I just wonder if we're having that kind of a surplus on a budget of roughly 17 million, general fund budget, is there any predictability in projecting a surplus? If we get that much of a surplus, it just...
Yeah, we're pretty good every year about hitting 95%. We've been pretty good I don't think we've had a year since Raju's been finance director that we've had more than 95. Do you remember a year where we've had more than 95% spending? 95%. So we're spending about the same amount. So we do have some kind of, if everybody kind of keeps doing what they're doing, we do have kind of a built-in cushion there. A lot of that, I mean, really a lot of that is because we're having such a hard time hiring DPS people. If we ever get to a situation where we've got a full DPS payroll, then we're going to be probably pushing above 95%. I know prior chief, we had, he spent 100% of his budget, like 100.1 or something like that. So it has happened before where DPS spends the entire budget, but it's rare. So we do have a little bit there. What you're going to find is building permits is the wild card in the budget, because everything can be going good. We can put all our projections in. Brian and Steve pour over. They talk to all the developers. What's going on? What's happening? When are you opening? Matt's talking to all the different retailers. Okay, you're opening here. That means we're going to start getting sales tax in 2 months. The comptroller starts delivering. What do you think it's going to be based on the prior store? So we've got a lot of detail. We've got Zach Tax that's helped us do our sales tax projections. So they do some statistical analysis as far as our sales tax. The building permits, and we actually ended up throwing into action the recession plan a few years ago. It was about 2 or 3 years ago? 2 years ago. So we ended the year with a budget surplus, but the reason we ended the year with a budget surplus is because building dropped off all of a sudden. Everybody got nervous. And when our permitting revenues dropped, it triggered the recession plan. So we stopped transfers into the road maintenance fund. We did all sorts of other things to slow down spending, and then all of a sudden the building permits came back, and they came back with a rage. And so all of a sudden we had, we just about made our budget, but we made it up in like the last quarter or so. So that was, I think that the most frustrating thing you're going to run into on the revenue and kind of the whole general fund side is the unpredictability of the building permits. And so as we transition more to commercial, and the commercial folks are kind of a little more committed once they start, you get the permit right away. So as long as the businesses keep opening the way they think they're going to open, then I think we're going to be okay. We're going to be in a better and more predictable state. I don't know, Steve, what is your opinion on that? Because the home builders seem to be the ones that are like, they're going like mad, and all of a sudden they get nervous.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, we've been predominantly residential for all of these years, and that's been the hardest to anticipate. We run our calculations based on last year, typically the numbers and how the year was. COVID threw us off into the recession. Then they came back, as he said, with a vengeance. So you just don't know what the market's doing. It's slowed now, so we run our projections based on the lots that we have and what we think the developer community's doing. And then we put a multiplier to that. So we try to stay about 85 to 90% within that. We've been doing this a long time, and I've never been right. So, never. But as Michael mentioned,
we've been short 1 year. We've been short 1 year.
Right.
Other years we've been over.
I think, as Michael mentioned, I think with the commercial, it's a little more steady. So as the residential kind of fades out, the lots that we have, and the commercial, it stays more consistent, that estimate will be much more easier to anticipate. So
Next year, we're looking pretty good. I think we're actually looking at an increase in permitting revenue for next year, not a whole lot over this year. That revenue source isn't really going to grow anymore. So the only way to really grow it is potentially to raise rates, which is, we've done that very strategically and not very often, just because it brings the ire of the home builders, and we're seeing some bills starting to pass that would put more handcuffs on us as far as how we use impact fees, how we raise impact fees, and so forth. So that we're going to have to deal with some of that. And of course, all these different processes are based on existing law that could change. But I think that's the trickiest part of figuring out how much money we're going to have is are the home builders going to keep building homes? And of course, in the next couple of years, that drops off. But we're hoping that that's when those drop off, the sales tax takes its place. But there's not from a budget standpoint, there's not a big, you would typically see if we are kind of continuing to sprawl and take up more and more land, you see more and more building permits, so your building permits would continue to rise. At the same time, the sales tax is dumping in, so then all of a sudden you start to see cities do typically quality of life stuff. So they may build a community center, they might open another park, they may open a couple, 3 fire stations. They spend all their money, essentially, and then they get to where they hit build out, and then their building permit drops about the same time as their roads start to die. So we don't want to do all of that stuff, but we're trying to kind of, as those permits come down with the revenues replaced, but we're not going to see a whole lot of, like, you're not going to see this big growth in the revenues when all of these businesses open, because those are essentially, they're taking the place of those permit numbers coming down. So we'll be okay. I think things are looking pretty good. It's just not going to be, you know, super great for the next little while.
All right, any other discussion on the budget? Okay, Ms. Vicki, what's our next agenda item?
Next will be agenda item 7, adjournment.
Okay, do I have a motion?
Make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
A second? All right, any discussion? We can vote. All right, motion passes 7-0. We are adjourned. Thank you, guys.